The Battle of Lushun Station. What happens? Who wins? The Battle of Lushun Station is the first battle of the Chinese Civil War. This battle is significant in that it marks the beginning of the Chinese Civil War. The battle ends with a victory for the nationalists and an ignominious defeat for Mao Zedong's Communist Party. The Battle of Lushun Station would lead to the eventual victory over Japan and other foreign powers. The Battle of Lushun Station begins when the Nationalist Army, led by Chiang Kai-shek, attacked and captured the Communist Party's base at Lushun Station. With this victory, the Nationalists gained full control over Manchuria and the surrounding regions, which was a source of crucial natural resources for China and simultaneously provided a shield from Japan. The battle lasts for 5 days and ends when nationalist forces from South China and Japan launch an offensive, driving the Communists back to their home base of Yan'an. The battle is the first major military engagement between the Communists and Nationalists, who would go on to become enemies in World War II. 1930, Mao Zedong established the Chinese Communist Party, or CPC. This event marks China's official entry into modernization, as well as its entrance into a civil war against Japan and other foreign powers. 1937, Japan invades China and begins its occupation of the country. No peace treaty was signed between China and Japan, but it is widely believed that the Japanese has not been completely successful in establishing dominion over China. 1937, in France, Leon Trotsky speaks to a crowd outside the gates of Paris during a rally against fascism and Nazism. He is arrested by French police and is deported to Mexico. 1937, the Great Depression begins in the United States, which lasts until World War II begins in 1939. 1939, Adolf Hitler's troops invade Poland and begin the Second World War in Europe. 1939, World War II begins in Europe with German invasion of Poland. 1940, the United Nations is founded by 26 countries. The UN has come a long way since then, but it was originally designed to be a forum for negotiation and cooperation among the world's nations. In this capacity, the UN has been highly successful in promoting peace, resolving disputes among nations, and promoting international development. The United Nations is a world body created in 1945 by the Allied powers of World War II. The Battle of Lushun Station and the events leading up to it. On October 1, 2018, China's People's Liberation Army, PLA, defeated the Japanese Imperial Army at the Battle of Lushun Station. It was a decisive victory that led to Japan's surrender and World War II ended. This was one of the most important battles in modern history. The battle began when the Japanese army attacked China's railway station in Lushun on September 18, 1937. The Japanese army won several victories over Chinese troops before finally reaching Lushun in October 1937. The battle lasted for 2 months until October 1, when the PLA forced Japan to surrender by capturing their supply lines and their headquarters at Lushun Station. The Battle of Lushun Station was the last battle between Chinese and Japanese troops. The Japanese troops attacked China's railway station in Lushun on September 18, 1937. After the battle, negotiations were held with both sides agreeing to end all military operations. It has been suggested that this battle is one of the most important parts of the war between Japan and China because it was the final battle before peace talks, which eventually led to the Treaty of Shimonoseki. This battle was fought over a railway station in China and its surrounding area. Although territory won by the Japanese, it was not occupied for about a year after the battle. The Chinese forces consisted of 90,000 troops, with 100 cannons and 400 machine guns. The Japanese fielded 250,000 men and had 700 cannon and 1,500 machine guns. The battle was characterized by vicious hand-to-hand combat between soldiers on the ground. On February 13, 1894, the Japanese launched a surprise attack on the Chinese forces at the Battle of Shimonoseki. The Japanese attacked with a force of 80,000 men, 10,000 cavalry, and 200 cannons. The Chinese defense was based on 3 lines of trenches. By the evening of February 13, most of the Chinese soldiers had been killed or captured while only 4 Japanese soldiers had died. The battle came to an end on the morning of February 14, 1894 when the Chinese forces surrendered. The Japanese had won a great victory in their fight for complete independence from China. Why an assault on Port Arthur is the best option for Japan in this case. Japan has been the victim of many natural disasters in the recent past. This includes a major earthquake and tsunami in 2011, a massive typhoon in 2016, and the strongest storm ever recorded in Japan just last year. In this video, we will discuss how Japan can best deal with this crisis. We will look at two options. Option A, assault on Port Arthur. Assault on Port Arthur is a military option that would not be the most politically expedient but would have many advantages. If the U.S. Navy could successfully capture and defend Port Arthur, then it would block any force from entering Japan except through a narrow, controlled channel at its base. This would eliminate the need to bomb Tokyo, since a port city close by could be used as a port of embarkation and supply. The capture of Port Arthur would also secure the Korean peninsula on Japan's side, while simultaneously destroying Russia's navy in the Yellow Sea. Option B, Russian forces win on land and preserve their naval forces. In the Japanese-Russian War, Japan would win the war and force Russia to sign a peace treaty. Bombing Tokyo would bring about its complete destruction and put Japan in a similar position to the one China is in now. However, Japan could still use its Kaitakucho port in order to embark and supply a force attacking Port Arthur from the south. The Russian navy would be destroyed as well, but Japan's industrial centers would survive with little damage. In this case, China would also be severely weakened. Opponents' argument: the Russian naval forces protect the Russian territories in the east. Russian naval forces will win at sea as they protect their country's territorial boundaries. The Russians do not need to worry about Japan because the Russians are able to protect their coastlines. And Russia is winning on land and preserving its naval forces. Stay tuned for part 2 of how the Japanese surprise attack on Port Arthur, Lushun, starts the Russo-Japanese War. Don't forget to subscribe, please.